Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. All praise due to Allah. We ask Allah to exalt the mention and grant peace and send His blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. First, I want to share a quick story with you based on, it's a true story. And in this story we learn the concept of su' al-dhan and husn al-dhan. Everybody knows su' al-dhan and husn al-dhan? Yay. A lot of Muslims, mashallah, tabarakallah, are programmed on su' al-dhan. Yani the default is they assume the worst. And yani it takes a lot for them to assume good. I'll give you an example. After I give a dars or a lecture, I watch it. I watch it. And very often, people in my circle, they see me watching my own lecture, and the first thing is like, Ya Sheikh, to this level, yani? That's how much you're fascinated with yourself? That you watch your own stuff? And wallahi, I watch my own stuff looking for mistakes. And I noticed that yesterday I made a mistake in an ayah and no one corrected me. So the first rule I want to establish is no one is above correction, including the sheikh. And we all know that I'm not a sheikh. But we're gonna go by the cultural understanding that if I'm behind the microphone and you are in front of it, or on the other side, that somehow I am the sheikh. We all know that I don't think I'm a sheikh. I've never called myself a sheikh. I don't agree that someone calls me a sheikh. Let's just say it's an ustadh or even a level below ustadh. No sheikh though, if it were a real sheikh, is above the book of Allah. So the ayah was, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَيُشْرَكَ بِهِ. And I realized that I said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغْفَرُ. Which is, by the way, a major distortion of the ayah. And I was surprised that when I made that mistake yesterday, no one corrected me. Even though that ayah, most of you should have at least come across, memorized, because this is a fundamental ayah in Tawheed and Shirk. Therefore, at any point in time, if the person speaking misquotes the book of Allah, you are allowed to correct him. In salah, if the sheikh made a mistake, do you correct him or not? Some of the scholars say even in khutbatul Jumu'ah, the imam misquotes an ayah from the minbar, you are allowed as a musalli to correct it. Why? Because the speech of Allah cannot be taken lightly. Therefore, always keep your ears open and be alert. Sometimes we quote citing ayat from memory, and memory fails. Memory fails. So if you know, don't be shy and say, I don't want to embarrass the ustadh in front of the people, or aib, or madri ish. Insa. Say, Ustadh, ma'lish, the ayah is such and such. And I'm sure anyone who's teaching you will be like, Jazakallahu khairan. Why? Because we would rather that the mistake is corrected on the spot, rather than kept in a video where there's no correction anymore. Sah? You have to make another video and say, Wallah, in the other class I said this. People will watch the other video 200 and the original video 2000. So 1800 people will not get the message of the mistake. Are we clear? But the lesson is good assumption. So if you see someone watching their video, where are the people who would say, this guy is looking out for his own mistakes so he doesn't repeat them? Very few. Almost everybody who saw me assumes that I'm watching myself for self-entertainment. And that shouldn't be the case. So you see your Muslim brother doing something, there are few possibilities. What is the best possibility? Assume that. When proven otherwise, then khalas. At some point you have to settle and accept that something wrong is happening. But that should be the last thing to do. طيب, بإذن الله عز وجل, we will finish the book inshallah. So that I did my homework earlier and I made sure that we will be able to finish. We ask Allah to grant us success and not getting off the topic. So we'll continue from where we'll pick up from where we left off. وَلِلْبُخَارِ بَيْنَمَا أَنَا قَائِمٌ. The people of Bottle, please take it easy. بينما أنا قائم إذا زمرة حتى إذا عرفتهم وعرفوني خرج رجل بيني وبينهم فقال هلم فقلت إلى أين؟ قال إلى النار والله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله قلت ما شأنهم قال إنهم ارتدوا بعدك على أدبارهم القهقري ثم إذا زمرة فذكر مثله وقال فلا أراه يخلص منهم إلا مثل همل النعم. The Prophet ﷺ said, while I was sleeping, a group of my followers came close to me. And when I recognized them, a man came out from among them and said to them, come along. I asked where? He said, to the hellfire by Allah. Those people who were coming to the Prophet ﷺ will be taken to the hellfire. And the malaika swore by Allah. I said, what is wrong with them? They said, they turned apostates and renegades after you left. Then behold, another group was brought close to me. And I said the same thing. To where? And they said, to the hellfire by Allah. So I did not see any one of them escaping except a few who were like camels without a shepherd. A few camels who usually a shepherd controls the herd, controls the camels. If there's no shepherd, more often than not, the camels will remain together and then a few of them will kind of go astray. So it will be in the same manner. And then the hadith, which we have been quoting for some time, and now we can quote it in its entirety. The hadith of Abu Hurairah, ما من مولود يولد إلا على الفطرة. There isn't any newborn that comes into existence or comes into this world except that he is born upon the natural disposition. فأباه يهودانه أو ينصرانه أو يمجسانه. So then it is his parents, i.e. his environment, that will make him a Jew or a Christian or a Magian. كما تنتج البهيمة بهيمة جمعاء هل تحسون فيها من جدعاء حتى تكونوا أنتم تجدعونها. The Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام said, just like the the animal when it produces the young one, unless the limbs are perfect, unless you do something to it to distort it, it is perfect. So everyone is born upon the fitrah, just like the natural animal is born in full form. Of course, exception is the one that is deformed. But the general, even among humans, are there people that are born with deformity? Some sort of physical, or this is the standard or the exception? The exception. The vast majority of people are born normal, mashallah, tabarakallah. Most of us over here, normal. So you might find one or two brothers, which by the way, could be a mercy from Allah to this person. Sometimes we have a misconception about the handicapped, and the handicapped are mistreated, looked down upon. This person is constantly having his deeds multiplied and his sins removed at all times. Any hardship the believer faces, any hardship. The Prophet ﷺ said, Hatta shawka, even if it's a little thorn that's going to poke you, Allah will expiate your sins. So someone who struggles more than others to get ordinary things done is a person that is actually having their sins multiplied. The elderly, who now at their age struggle to make wudu, struggle to go to the bathroom, struggle to pray, all of this is them getting their rewards multiplied by Allah. We could look at them and think that they're behind, they're actually ahead. And you who could be fully healthy could be behind, while someone who's handicapped is ahead. So these are from the matters of the unseen. Only Allah knows who's getting what. So the evidence here is that you were born upon a natural disposition, i.e. a Muslim. Then comes the famous hadith of Hudhayfa. وعن حذيفة رضي الله عنه قال كان الناس يسألون رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن الخير وأنا أسأله عن الشر مخافة أن يدركني. Everybody used to ask the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم about good, and I used to ask him about evil, but then he explained, and this is from the wisdom of the Sahaba, and this is why it is said, and the Sahaba said, خاطب الناس على قدر عقولهم. I believe it was Ali radiallahu anhu. Speak to the people according to their understanding. أتحبون أن يكذب الله ورسوله. Do you want Allah and His Messenger to be denied and belied? Meaning you could say something to someone that they will not grasp, and in the process they will deny something from the Quran and the Sunnah. Meaning when you speak to the people, you have to assess your audience. Is this audience going to understand what I'm going to say, or is it going to create a confusion for them? Therefore, you withhold from saying it. So some things you only say to students of knowledge. Some things you only discuss among people of knowledge. And something you discuss with the laymen. And some things you discuss with the non-Muslims. This is why the idea of giving a translated version of the Quran to a non-Muslim is not necessarily the wisest thing to do. The Prophet ﷺ would not send whatever had been revealed thus far of the Quran to the various disbelievers and say, here, read whatever you want. When he would send letters to Malik al-Rum and Malik Faris, he would quote particular ayat. قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم ألا نعبد إلا الله ولا نشرك به شيئا ولا يتخذ بعضنا بعضا أربابا من دون الله فإن تولوا فقولوا فاشهدوا بأننا مسلمون. So he quoted an ayah, O people of the book, let's come to common terms, a word of agreement between us, that we should worship none but Allah, and that we shouldn't take any other allies or rivals besides Him. And then if they accept, otherwise let them bear witness that we are Muslims. Meaning we're not going to take the same route that you're taking. So sometimes you give a mushaf or a translation of mushaf to a non-Muslim and they open Surah At-Tawbah, Surah Al-Imran, some of the surah that contain certain topics which if they read the first ayah, he's going to be like, what? Whatever he's heard on the news is now being endorsed. Do you understand? And where's the Muslim who's going to explain, oh, the giga? There's context and this ayah was revealed for this reason and so on and so forth. It's always best to tailor your speech according to the person you're speaking with. He's a Hindu, you give him da'wah according to what you know of Hinduism. He's a Christian, you give him da'wah according to what you know of Christianity. As for this open book for everybody, it might backfire. It might backfire. So you have to speak to the people according to their intellect. So Hudhayfa radiallahu anhu, قل يا أهل الكتاب تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم ألا نعبد إلا الله, that we should worship none but Allah, ولا نشرك به شيئا, we associate none and worship with Him, ولا يتخذ بعضنا بعضا أربابا من دون الله. I didn't translate all of it, Jazakallah khair. And that we don't take from amongst each other lords and objects of worship besides Allah. فإن تولوا فقولوا اشهدوا بأننا مسلمون. طيب. So Hudhayfa explained, and I used to ask him about evil. Why? مخافة أن يدركني. I was afraid that it will come to me, it will affect me, it will influence me. So he explained so that no one thinks that it's some people have this kind of tendency to be obsessed with certain things that they should. Some people are obsessed with jinn. True or false? The only thing that interests them about Islam is jinn. Tell me jinn stories. The jinn went and the jinn came. Ya Habibi, anta, you're barely dealing with ins. Anta, you can't even manage among other human beings. What is this obsession with jinn? Let the jinn be. We believe in them. They're in the Quran. Allah told us, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. We believe, but if your whole life is going to be obsession with the dark room, who he's in here, who he's in the toilet, who he's outside, who cooking, you're going to live a miserable life where you won't have any peace. So you need to know where to draw the line. Believing in something and being obsessed with something else. So Hudhayfa said, I was afraid it will affect me. فَقُلْتُ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ عليه الصلاة والسلام إِنَّ كُنَّ فِي جَاهِلِيَّةٍ وَشَرٍ. We used to be immersed in ignorance and evil. فَجَاءَنَا اللَّهُ بِهَذَا الْخَيْرِ. Allah has brought us this goodness, meaning the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام and Islam. فَهَلْ بَعْدَ هَذَا الْخَيْرِ مِنْ شَرٍ. Will there be any evil after this good? قال نعم. He said yes. فقلت وهل بعد هذا الشر من خير. He said okay, there will be evil after the good. Will there be good after the evil? قال نعم وفيه دخن. He said yes, but it will be tainted. It will be tainted. قلت وما دخنه. What is the taint? قال قوم يستنون بغير سنتي وَيَهْتَدُونَ بِغَيْرِ هَدْيِ. A group of people that will follow a sunnah other than my sunnah, and they will follow a guidance other than my guidance. That's pretty difficult. That's pretty extreme. Those individuals will look at the sunnah, disregard it. Look at the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ, disregard it. تَعْرِفُ مِنْهُمْ وَتُنْكِرُ. And you will know some things that will be good, and you will see and identify and recognize the evil that they will also have. قلت وهل بعد هذا الخير من شر. So now we're going through phases يا أخوان. It was evil. Then Allah brought Islam, which was good. Then this good will be followed by evil. Then the evil will be followed by good, but they will be tainted. It will be tainted. Then after the good which will be followed with evil, they will be what again? Shar. They will be evil again. وهل بعد هذا الخير من شر. قال نعم. الله. فتنة عمياء. Who could translate? فتنة عمياء. No one knows? Huh? Blinding tribulations. Excellent translation. MashaAllah. Amya from ama. A'ma. Right? Who can quote an ayah that has a'ma? We have to exercise, ya Jama'at al-Khair, istidlal. Istidlal is one of the most critical traits of da'wah. Being able to reference an ayah needed at the context. It's a skill you need to grow. Huh? Yeah, Sheikh, أنت you chose the easiest one. The easiest one. عبس وتولى أن جاءه الأعمى. ما الله ما عيب لعيب. غيرها. Hey, and there's a third one. And because I have two ears, each one is going to take one, يعني? إيش هذا? What is this? A joint effort? Collaboration of Abdullah and Ahmed? طيب, what is the ayah? So, فإن له معيشة ضنكا ونحشره يوم القيامة أعمى. قال رب لما حشرتني. Can you translate? And Allah will say, كذلك, such our signs. No, كذلك أتتك, such our signs came to you, فنسيتها, so you forgot about them, and similarly today you will be forgotten. What kind of forgetfulness is that? Is it forgetfulness of al-dhuhul, as the scholars call it? Al-dhuhul is when you and I forget? No, it is aywa. Like, forget you, man. When you say to someone, I don't know if you say it in England, but in other countries they say, oh, forget you. Forget you meaning, I'm not going to pay any attention to you. Not that I don't remember you when I see you next time, meaning you're not important right now. You're going to be neglected and ignored, just like when the ayat came to you, you neglected them and you ignored them. طيب, tamam. At least we quoted at least 3 ayats for the word a'ma. So it will be fitnatun amya. It will be fitna that will be blinding. It will blind the people, meaning only the people of knowledge and those who follow them in their footsteps will be able to see through navigate through the drama. Yes, sir. In the middle of the dars, yalla ماشي. خلاص خلصنا من يا شيخ. لا. You missed the train, Baba. Next time you need to be the first one to raise your hand. We'll try you again, inshallah, later. But otherwise, we're never going to finish. You know how it is. You know how it is. طيب. فتنة عمياء. وَدُعَاتٌ عَلَى أَبْوَابِ جَهَنَّمْ. Du'at. The plural of what? Da'i. And da'i is a caller. So what type of callers will there be? There will be callers where? On the gates of Jahannam. Do you think they're going to tell you, let's go to Jahannam? Do you think any of these du'at is going to explicitly and tell you, I'm going to Jahannam, anyone wants to come along? No, what are they going to tell you? Quran and Sunnah. Brother, I'm calling you to the Quran and Sunnah. Everybody, mashallah, tabarakallah, every denomination out there will allege that they're calling you to the what? The Quran and Sunnah. It's the easiest thing in the world. Because if you said otherwise, most people are not going to take you seriously. People will not take you seriously. So how do we substantiate this Quran and Sunnah? What kind of qualifying condition do we have to add? According to the understanding of the companions and those who followed them. Otherwise, everybody will tell you the Quran and the Sunnah. So the Quran and the Sunnah used to be sufficient at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. For the upcoming generations, after the early 3 generations, we have to understand Islam according to their understanding. That generation. من أجابهم إليها قذفوه فيها. Subhanallah. Whoever أجاب, when you answer the phone, and تجيب على الاتصال, تجيب الاتصال, you answer the phone, whoever responds to them, whoever replies, responds, agrees to their call, they will cast them into Jahannam. قلت يا رسول الله عليه الصلاة والسلام صفهم لنا, O Messenger of Allah, I said to him, describe them for us. قال قوم من جلدتنا, people from our skin, ويتكلمون بألسنتنا, and they will speak the same language, the same tongue as we do. فقلت يا رسول الله فما تأمرني إن أدركت ذلك. Look at the intricacy of the understanding of the Sahabi. At no point does he rely on his intuition, his assessment, his ijtihad. As long as he's able to get the clearest answer, he will go for the clearest answer. Spell it out for me. Spoon feed it to me. Yes. If I have that option, I would rather that option than me have to figure things out on my own. Why? Because your intellect may fail you. Your knowledge may fail you. So look at the depth of asking. O Messenger of Allah, even though it might be clear, you see these people, you run away. What do you command me? Ta'muruni, from Amr. What do you command me? In adraktu dhalik, if I live to see this. قال تلزم جماعة المسلمين وإمامهم. You stick to the main body of Muslims and their imam. قلت فإن لم يكن لهم جماعة ولا إمام. What if there was no jama'ah left and no imam? قال فاعتزل تلك الفرق كلها. Abandon, boycott, avoid, ignore all of these groups. Any groups that you see today that are calling you with their du'at on the gates of Jahannam telling you come, all of these, abandon them. Do not associate with them. Do not be with them. Do not partake with them. Do not follow them. وَلَوْ أَن تَعَضَّ عَلَىٰ أَصْلِ شَجَرَةٍ. Even if all you found was a branch of a tree or the trunk of a tree. حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْمَوْتُ وَأَنْتَ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. Until death comes to you and you're biting on a tree, to stay away from all the fitnah, this blind fitnah that will be around. And akhwan, we are living more or less those fitan. And what comes later will be worse. But we have our share today. We already have our share today. So that's why there is no room for negotiating in terms of people creating a sect and giving it a name and then recruiting people. It's like this recruitment business where you have to be a card holder, a member of a club of Muslims that have their own way of doing things. And more often than not, rather 99% of the time, it is not in line with the way of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. طيب زاد مسلم ثم يخرج الدجال معه نهر ونار. Then the Dajjal will come out and he will have with him what? Translate ya akhwan. نهر ونار. What is nahr? Huh? A river? It has to be a river. Can we say river? Or only a river? It's a nakira. A river. طيب, we have unar. How do you protect yourself from the Dajjal? Oh, first of all, if you hear about him, do you go pay him a visit? Somebody tells you, Allah, the Dajjal is down the street. So, I've heard about him. Let me go see what this guy is about. Or do you run away? You run away. You run away. The asl in Islam is that when you know there's a fitna, avoid it. Don't confront it and hope for the best. Don't confront it, hope for the best. Run away. And then let's say, la qaddar Allah, there's no escape. He came to your town. What are among the means to protect yourself? You're going to help us out?
Read the first 10 ayahs of Surah.
Jazakallah khair. And according to other scholars, the last 10 ayat. And according to some, they say all of it. First 10 ayat, last 10 ayat, might as well know Surah Al-Kahf, especially that you are expected, according to some narrations that is, to recite it every Friday. And even if you didn't recite it every Friday, Surah Al-Kahf is very easy to memorize. No? No. Maybe. Ya Jama'ah, come on. How can you refute me? It's not easy to memorize. If someone tells you it's not easy to memorize, how do you refute him? Hey, Sheikh, you recite Surah Al-Qamar. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. We have made the Quran easy to remember. Is there anyone who will remember? There's no such thing as the Quran being difficult. Do you not see how many non-Arabs have memorized the Quran from cover to cover? How many pages? 600 plus? Do you understand the magnitude of that? You can't even memorize the ingredients of this bottle of water even after 3 months of studying it. I challenge you, if every day you read this, you still will forget. What is the potassium? But a person who doesn't speak Arabic memorizes the entire book of Allah, from Fatiha to Surah An-Nas. Not 1, 2, 3, hundreds, thousands, if not more, from every background in the world. You're going to tell me the Quran is difficult to remember? Wallahi, it's easy. We are just not doing the job. We've fallen short, we've believed the shaitan's tricks, and we haven't done it. Anyways, the Dajjal will come, and he will bring forth, accompanied with him, a river and fire. فَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي نَارِهِ وَجَبَ أَجْرُهُ وَحُطَّ عَنْهُ وِزْرُهُ. Whoever, he will command people to jump into the fire. Whoever jumps into the fire, he will get his reward, and his sins will be forgiven. And whoever, وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي نَهْرِهِ وَجَبَ وِزْرُهُ وَحُطَّ أَجْرُهُ. And whoever falls into the river, his evil, his sin will be compulsory against him, and his reward will be invalidated. Because you're supposed to disobey the Dajjal. So he will tell the people, this is Jannah, and basically, this is Jannah and this is Jahannam through the river and the fire. So the people who obey him are actually getting the opposite of what they want. You understand? Because that's the fitnah of the Dajjal. That's why you don't expose yourself to the Dajjal. Because you might be fascinated. A person may be, he will command the sky to rain, it will rain. Imagine, يَأْمُرُ السَّمَاءَ أَن تُمْطِرْ فَتُمْطِرِ السَّمَاءَ. If somebody right now just went outside, not coincidentally, obviously, it was already raining, and then he said rain, and then there's some drizzle comes on, he said, see, if somebody genuinely, it was like a day, a clear day, no clouds, and he says rain and it rains, are you not going to freak out? Of course you're going to freak out. The Dajjal is going to do greater than that. Major fitna for the people. Who will follow him? No, wait, we don't want to say things that will mess the video. Khalas. We'll follow him people that have problems. May Allah not make us among them. طيب. قلت ثم ماذا قال هي قيام الساعة. He said, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Then what? Then the Prophet said, then it is the establishment of the hour. طيب. So, excuse me. So you understand from this particular hadith the gravity and the reality of sectarianism, and that this ummah has had sectarianism written upon it and has been prophesied. And I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but I will mention it now. If a non-Muslim tries to use this against you, then you use it against him. So when you speak to a Christian, you tell him, look man, there's a sign, an evidence of your religion being, distorted is that you have Catholics and Protestants and Jehovah Witnesses and born agains and and you guys don't even agree on the same Bible, you don't agree on the same creed, you have different beliefs. If he's slick and he's done his homework, he could turn around and say, okay, and you guys have Sunnis and Shia and Barelvis and Diobandis, and he'll give you a list of names that he also studied. So he's going to say, what? So now how are you using this against me? We're basically in the same predicament. You say, no, we're not. Nice try, keep trying, but that's not going to fly with me. Actually, that what you just mentioned is from the miracles of the Prophet ﷺ, who told us over 1400 years ago that we will divide into this many sects. We actually were told, and we were told what their traits will be and what they will do, and we were told who will be the right people, the upright people, the saved and aided sect, Al-Ta'ifa al-Mansura wal-Firqa al-Najiyah. He gave us clear description of them. So that's actually from the miracles of the Prophet ﷺ that we're seeing the manifestation and the materialization of the division of the ummah. Because if he were to say that my ummah will divide into 73 sects, and imagine we were all just one single ummah, all like, lovey-hubby, what do they call them? We're all just having a good old time. In one circle, like these people used to make this, this dua, Jannah hug. You guys remember Jannah hug? Oh, you don't even know Jannah hug. That's one of the bid'ah of the, these organizations, da'wah organizations. After the lecture, we all come together, right? And we hug each other and we say, Jannah, Jannah. And this is it's like a football game, It's like the huddle. Yeah. They tell you where they begin the lecture, Al-Quran wa Sunnah. At the end of it, we're doing Jannah hug. أي قرآن وسنة وأي كلام. It's all kalam fadi. MashaAllah, professional kalam fadi. So, pay attention to, and so you tell them this is a prophecy of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, subhanallah al-azim. This is evidence of anything that they use against the Prophet alayhi salam is evidence for him. They tell you, okay, how come in the Quran it says that he made haram what Allah made halal for him? Or that he married Zainab bin Jahash. Who was married to her before him? Zayd. Sah? Anytime they want to use something against you, you say, this is actually evidence for us. Don't you think the Prophet ﷺ would hide? If this was something that would be problematic, don't you think that they will be removed and omitted from the Quran? The Sahaba at least would do it to protect him, protect his honor and dignity according to you. The fact that these are still in the Quran being recited until today is evidence of the preservation of the Quran. Nothing they want to use against us except that we will reverse it, Uno reverse. We will use Uno reverse and smash their head with it. Ala tul. Anything. He married Aisha at the age of 6. He consummated the marriage of the age of 9. Some sellout Muslims, they play with the day. She was 18 because back then Amul Fil, they didn't have the Gregorian year. Ay kalam. The hadith is in Bukhari, ya Sheikh. Stop playing around. Did you know that she was engaged to someone before the Prophet ﷺ? This was standard air procedure. Standard air procedure that girls would get married at a very young age. And the kuffar of Quraysh who hated the Prophet ﷺ, called him kahin, sahir, sha'ir, majnoon, never once did they criticize him for this. Sah wala la. Why? Because this was never an issue. It was a non-issue. Now in the modern world, they made 18. Imagine you're 17 years old and you have one more day for your birthday. It's illegal to do something. A few hours later, it becomes legal. كيف يعني? It's either puberty, like in Islam, or certain signs, or we're in the same thing. So nothing that they try to use against us, except that if you learn, you'll be able to use it against them. But what is required? Learning. You need to spend time to learn how to retaliate respectfully. And this way you are protecting Islam, and you are protecting yourself from these trials, and you're also engaging in the da'wah that you are expected to engage in. طيب. باب ما جاء في غربة الإسلام وفضل الغرباء وقول الله تعالى فلولا كان من القرون من قبلكم أولو بقية ينهون عن الفساد في الأرض. The chapter regarding the strangeness of Islam and the virtue of the strangers, and the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, if only there had been among the generation before you righteous people who would forbid others from spreading corruption in the land, except a few of them whom we saved. Surah Hud, ayah 116. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه مرفوعا بدأ الإسلام غريبا وسيعود غريبا كما بدأ فطوبى للغرباء رواه مسلم. ورواه الإمام أحمد بن حديث ابن مسعود وفيه قال ومن الغرباء قال النزاع من القبائل وفي رواية الغرباء الذين يصلحون إذا فسد الناس. Now pay attention. First we cited the ayah, then the hadith of Abu Hurairah. We also cited this hadith yesterday. Islam began as strange and it will go back to being strange like it started. So give tuba. Tuba is, as we said, it's either a tree in Jannah, or the other interpretation, tuba from tayyib. From tayyib. Anything that is good, any type of good news is tuba. And then he, in a hadith of Ibn Mas'ud, he alayhi salatu wasalam mentioned the exception from among the strangers. And he said, الغرباء الذين يصلحون إذا فسد الناس. This riwayah, there's a concern about the authenticity. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah authenticated another wording of this hadith. أناس صالحون في أناس سوء كثير من يعصيهم أكثر ممن يطيعهم. Those strangers, because they were described, will be righteous people, a small amount or small quantity of righteous people amongst many wicked people. Those who will obey them will be far less than those who will disobey them, or those who will disobey them will be more than those who will obey them. So if somebody asks you, who are the strangers that will come at the end of time with Islam? It's always going to be some righteous people who are often ignored. Ignored by who? By the vast majority of Muslims. Are they going to be ignored by everyone? No. لا تزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين على الحق. They will always remain a group of the ummah that will be clear and above and reinforced with the truth. لا يضرهم من خذلهم. They will not be harmed by those who abandon them and those who leave them and those who ignore them. حتى تقوم الساعة, until the hour is established. So there will always be a group of people. Those people in this day and time, they are not the popular ones. They are not the popular ones. The popular, even among the mashayikh, with the exception of some of the major mashayikh, whom Allah Azza wa Jal has put acceptance for them in the hearts of the Muslims worldwide, like Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah, Shaykh al-Albani, Shaykh bin Uthaymeen. Somehow, some way, Allah put acceptance for these mashayikh in the hearts of the Muslims in the all over the Muslim world. Even those who don't agree with the Wahhabi version of Islam, as they like to put it, somehow they still accept their fatwa, at least in areas that they don't think are controversial. They accept them as an authority. But in terms of da'wah, then you already know the da'wah scene is chaotic. It's absolutely chaotic. So if you're doing some wild stuff, you will have plenty of following and you will have a great time. And if you're just teaching Islam, then like, who cares? I will not quote the version in Tirmidhi, which says الذين, well, I'm going to quote it, but so you will know that it's weak. الذين يصلحون ما أفسد الناس من سنتي. That's one of the riwayat. Those who will rectify what the people will corrupt of my sunnah. This particular wording of the hadith is ضعيف. Now, here we have this hadith. وعن أبي أمية قال سألت أبا ثعلبة الخشني فقلت يا أبا ثعلبة الخشني عفوا كيف تقول في هذه الآية يا أيها الذين آمنوا عليكم أنفسكم لا يضركم من ضل إذا اهتديتم. I asked him, said, Oh Abu Tha'laba, what do you say regarding the ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah 105? All you who have believed, upon you is yourself. It does not harm you, it does not affect you, those who are misguided, as long as you are guided. What do you think? How do you think this ayah can be misused? Aywa. So that is the common understanding that actually occurred all the way back then. And people said that in front of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and he corrected them. The ayah, the apparent meaning of the ayah is, you just worry about yourself. What's another ayah? Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. Protect yourselves and your family from the fire. Technically saying, everybody else, you shouldn't be concerned about them. Is that true or false? False. This is a muhkam or mutashabih. What's the muhkam? Yeah, Sheikh, give me the muhkam ayah. Can explain to me muhkam? We already finished that. That's mutashabih. This ayah is mutashabih. What is the muhkam ayah that will explain this mutashabih? How do you prove? Aywa. Aywa, Sheikh, give me an ayah, Sheikh. Aywa, where are you? Hey, barakallah fi. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat an-nas. What do? تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. You were the best nation that ever came out to people. What is your main characteristics? You enjoin what is good, you forbid what is evil. How are you going to do that if you're just going to leave people alone? صح ولا لا? والمؤمنون والمؤمنات بعضهم أولياء بعض يأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر. And the believing men and the believing women are allies to one another. They enjoin what is good, forbid what is evil, and so on and so forth. The entire Quran is telling you about stopping the evil when you see it, and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, مَنْ رَأَ مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرًا فَلْيُغَيِّرُ بِيَدِهِ, until the end. So don't misunderstand the ayah. And so he asked him, قال أما والله لقد سألت عنها خبيرا. He said, Wallahi, you've asked the expert about this ayah. سألت عنها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. I asked the same question to the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. فقال, so he said, look at the answer of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام to this particular misunderstanding of the ayah. بل ائتمروا بالمعروف, rather enjoin what is good. وتناهوا عن المنكر, and forbid what is evil. حتى إذا رأيتم شحا مطاعا, even if you see a miserly person that is being obeyed. وهوى متبعا, and you see desires that is being followed. ودنيا مؤثرة, and you see a worldly life that has been favored and preferred over the akhirah. وإعجاب كل ذي رأي برأيه, and the self-amazement of every possessor of an opinion with his own opinion. فعليك بنفسك ودع عنك العوام. Upon you yourself and ignore the lay people. فإن من ورائكم أيام الصبر. Behind you are days of patience. القابض فيهن على دينه كالقابض على الجمر. And you've heard that hadith before. The one amongst you who will be holding on, among them who will be holding on to the religion, is like the one holding on to a burning coal. Is it easy to hold on to a burning coal? Have you ever tried? You've tried? Why? You were making bakhur. So it's accidental. Maybe you have some sadist tendencies. I'm not even going to go there. Ash-shahid, the average, the normal person does not hold on to a burning coal. I don't know what's going on with you, bro. But you know, okay. You're not supposed to give me that answer. You do understand that, right? Like some. I remember I was giving a lecture about like one of the wildest experiences of my life. We gave a lecture about hardship in life and calamities, and that everyone is tested, and there's no way that you won't be tested. Wallahi, a brother stood up in the middle of the lecture. He said, "Sheikh," I said, "Yes." He said, "I've never been tested." I said, "What?" Brother was like 30 plus, almost 40 years old. He said, "I've never had a calamity before me, never been tested in my life." I told him, there's a test right now. You're being tested as we speak. The fact that you think that you've never been tested is actually a test in and of itself. Because you're rejecting the Quran, and the Quran tells you, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَيُّتْرَكُوا أَيَّقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Do the people assume they will just say we believe and they will not be tested? What does Allah say in Surah Al-Baqarah? فَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ. And we shall surely test you with something of fear and poverty and loss of vegetation and crops and life. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ. See ma ahlak? There you go. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ, not fa. You should have corrected me before him, ya Shaykh. Ash-shahid, so the person assumed, or somehow he's never been hit with any, his whole life has been VIP. Red carpet, bodyguards, 5 stars, not even one thing bothered him. I couldn't understand. Can you relate? Yeah, I've had a rough one then. Most of us have had a rough one. How did we get here? Nobody knows. Ash-shahid, that you're not supposed to hold on to a burning coal, right? Actually, if sometimes you leave the water running for a little bit, and if it's too hot, you can't even keep your hand under the hot water, let alone a burning coal that actually has fire. So it was said to the Prophet ﷺ, لِلْعَامِلِ فِيهِنَّ مِثْلُ أَجْرِ 50 رَجُلًا يَعْمَلُونَ مِثْلَ عَمَلِكُمْ. He said to the Sahaba, the person who will be exerting himself among them will have the reward of 50 from among you. from similar, who do the deeds that you do. قُلْنَا مِنَّا أَوْ مِنْهُمْ. Yeah, 50 of us or 50 of them. قَالَ بَلْ مِنْكُمْ. Rather 50 of you. Now, does that mean that you will ever be better than the Sahaba? No. They have a certain fadl and virtue that you will never achieve. But in terms of reward, can Allah give you more reward? Yes, Allah will give you more reward. Does that make you better than the other person? Not necessarily. So Allah will give those people that hold on to their religion at difficult times the reward of 50 of the Sahaba. The reward of 50 of the Sahaba. But does that make them more virtuous or with the Sahaba? Never. Never. The Sahaba have achieved what? Have achieved something that no one can achieve. Which is what? Is it seeing the Prophet ﷺ? Is that one of the conditions of the Sahabi, that he has to have seen the Prophet ﷺ?
No.
Yes or no? We're not playing games here. This is a serious class. How do you know? You have seen him. So Ibn Maktoum is not a Sahabi. Hey, that's why the scholars say he met the Prophet ﷺ. Why? Some of the Sahaba were blind. Ibn Maktoum was blind. And others among the Sahaba were blind. The man who came and also told him that I cannot make it to the masjid and I'm old and I can't see. Do you give me an excuse to pray at home? He told him in the beginning, yes. As soon as he walked away, Wallahu alam, the Prophet ﷺ received revelation. قال يا فلان هل تسمع النداء بالصلاة? Do you hear the call for the prayer? قال نعم. قال فأجب. Then respond. So if a Sahabi was blind and he still met the Prophet ﷺ, he's still a Sahabi. He doesn't have to have seen him with his eyes. So this one, that way you don't disqualify others from among the Sahaba. Right. And then the other two narrations that we have here are actually weak. 3 of them are weak. In that particular chapter, many weak narrations. So we will stick to the Sahih inshallah. طيب. باب التحذير من البدع. The chapter on warning against innovation. The hadith which all of you, I believe, memorized or trying to memorize. الحديث of العرباد بن سارية رضي الله عنه قال وعظنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم موعظة بليغة وجلت منها القلوب وذرفت منها العيون قلنا يا رسول الله كأنها موعظة مودع فأوصنا قال أوصيكم بتقوى الله عز وجل والسمع والطاعة وإن تأمر عليكم عبد فإنه من يعش منكم فسيرى اختلافا كثيرا فعليكم بسنتي وسنة الخلفاء الراشدين المهديين من بعدي تمسكوا بها وعضوا عليها بالنواذج وإياكم ومحدثات الأمور فإن كل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة رواه الترمذي وقال حديث حسن صحيح. A very, very, very critical hadith, a profound hadith, a foundational hadith for all the Muslims in the world. If we only acted upon it, our life will be absolutely beautiful and simple and straightforward. But it is what it is. Al-Arbad said that wa'adhana, meaning he admonished us. The Prophet ﷺ admonished us such an admonishment that was so deep that our hearts trembled and our eyes shed tears. Their hearts were trembling, their eyes were shedding tears, they were crying from the maw'idah of the Prophet ﷺ. And can you imagine being advised by Allah's Messenger? Yani, who could give better advice than Allah's Messenger, who receives revelation from Allah directly alayhi salatu wassalam? So we said, O Messenger of Allah, it is as though it is the admonishment of someone who's giving farewell. Muwaddi', meaning someone who's, you know, when someone is gonna like travel, they speak to you the same as when they go to work. Like the father before he goes to work, does he give his children this kind of advice? Or does he give it when he's about to travel? If he's gonna travel for a few weeks or a few months, he's gonna give him a relevant speech to the family, not the same one he gives when he goes to work, right? So you sense when someone gives you this kind of advice, it's as though this person might not come back, or you might not see them, or it's an indicative of things coming to an end. So we said, awsina, from what? From which word? Wasiyah. Wasiyah is one covenant or one advice, and wasaya is the plural. So he said, the first thing that you always advise, I advise you to have taqwa of Allah. And the very next thing, when it comes to individual, what's the first right? The right of who? And then Allah and His Prophet ﷺ, and then your parents. صح ولا لا؟ وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا واعبدوا الله ولا تشركوا به شيئا وبالوالدين إحسانا. Always after the right of Allah, the right of the parents. So in your environment, who's next after Allah and His Messenger alayhi salatu salam? Your mom and your dad. This is within on your own. Collectively, listen to this. Collectively, as an ummah, the first thing after the taqwa of Allah is who? The Muslim ruler. Allahu Akbar. We are at a stage where we have been so contaminated with hatred, with evil, with the Khawarij ideology, that people genuinely don't like this topic. Do you understand? Like even when I want to speak about it, you start feeling, you're doubting yourself. You doubt yourself because they've made it seem that if you say this, you have an agenda. You understand? The propaganda that is around, that if you speak about this, meaning you're a paid agent by a particular government who is like every day they meet you at night in private, say, listen, tomorrow you're going to have a talk, please tell the people to listen to us, Allah khalik, because without you we're all going to go to hell. It's foolish, wallahi it's foolish. Allah knows no one has ever spoken to me. No one has ever spoken to me. And many of these people that give da'wah, we're simply going by the Quran and the Sunnah. As soon as you say Quran and Sunnah, you become a million things that you yourself don't know about. You yourself don't know. Oh, Zionist agent. When, yahi? With who? How? Because we have been sick. We have become sick. For even mentioning this, automatically you're trying to defend a certain entity. This has nothing to do with any government. Not associated with any government. This is the Prophet ﷺ telling you, after you have taqwa of Allah, as-sam', you have to hear, wa ta'a, abshir, obey. Because he knows that the people have a problem with that. He told them, even if a slave were to be in charge of you. Now, mind you, back then, slavery still existed. You understand? You can go buy someone from the supermarket. Not a supermarket, from the market. Maybe it was super then, I don't know. And slavery back then had nothing to do with skin. It wasn't white people enslaving black people and all that stuff. This is actually a modern world. Ironically, the people that are always complaining about, slavery in Islam, actually enslaved people. But somehow it's okay for them, not okay what was happening back then, which was common behavior for all the nations back then. All the civilizations had slavery. So it was not skin related. It was based on what? Warfare. This entity defeated this entity, they will own them. Period. It could be white, black, Asians, Turks, it doesn't matter. So, but generally a slave was owned, and an owned slave by no means is equal to a free man. He is beneath and below, regardless of his race, because he's owned. You actually buy him and sell him. You buy him and you sell him. So the last thing that the people would want in charge would be what? A slave. And the Prophet ﷺ told them, even if it was a slave, you listen and you obey even if slave. The thing that you will be the most repelled by, if that were to be the case, you still have to listen and obey. Because whoever will live amongst you will see a lot of differences. So upon you is my sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided khulafa. Hold on to it and bite on it with your molar teeth. The ones inside. And I used to give that example when I was a kid. Maybe I'll give you the example as an old man. If you were drowning and your hands were tied behind your back, and someone threw a rope to save you, and the only option you had was to bite on it, are you going to use your cute front teeth? You want to go like this and hope that you grab that rope, or are you going to swallow the rope? I would swallow the rope. If part of it will go in my belly and the other one I'm just biting on it for me to be saved, you better believe I'm doing that. Do you understand what we're trying to establish here? We're trying to establish the eagerness to hold on and grab onto it to save yourself. Don't be funny and cute with it and soft. Right? Don't choose your front teeth because you may or may not, you might slip out. But when you use your back teeth, you have a good grip on it. So this sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and the rightly guided khulafa is not something that you deal with lightly. It's something that you want to be very firm about, very straightforward about. And woe to you from newly introduced matters, because every newly introduced matter is an innovation, and every innovation will lead you astray. Then we have the amazing story of Ibn Mas'ud. Ad-Darimi narrated that Al-Hakam ibn Mubarak informed them on the authority of Amr ibn Yahya. He said, I heard my father speak about his father. He said, we were sitting at the door of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, may Allah be pleased with him, before Salat al-Dhuhr. فَإِذَا خَرَجَ مَشَيْنَ مَعَهُ إِلَى الْمَسْجِدِ. Whenever he would leave, subhanallah, they would wait for the Sahabi outside his house, because they want to spend time with the Sahaba. When he would go to the masjid, it's like an entourage. They would walk with him to the masjid. فَجَاءَنَا أَبُو مُوسَى الْأَشْعَرِيُّ رضي الله عنه. So Abu Musa al-Ash'ari came to us. فَقَالَ أَخَرَجَ عَلَيْكُمْ أَبُو عَبْدِ الرَّحْمَنِ. Did Abu Abd al-Rahman go out? Who's Abu Abd al-Rahman? Ibn Mas'ud. Ibn Mas'ud. أخرج عليكم أبو عبد الرحمن بعد؟ قلنا لا. We said no. قال فجلس معنا. So everybody's waiting for Ibn Mas'ud to come out of his house, to go to the masjid so they could join him. And Abu Musa al-Ash'ari sat with them, waiting. فلما خرج قمنا إليه جميعا. When he came out, all of us got up and went to him. Allahu Akbar. What a scene. What a scene. فقال له أبو موسى. Abu Musa said, يا أبا عبد الرحمن. O Abu Abd al-Rahman, إني رأيت آنفا في المسجد أمرا أنكرته. I have just observed or witnessed something in the masjid that I أنكرته, meaning I have a reservation about. I have a criticism against. والحمد لله لم أرى إلا خيرا. Alhamdulillah, I haven't seen anything but good. Why? Because what comes to mind? What comes to mind? Something wicked is happening in the masjid. Right? Something that is inappropriate is happening in the masjid. That would be the first thing that you will think about. So he qualified the statement. And I don't think I saw something that is abhorrent to this degree, but something that I have reservation against. قال فما هو? He said, what is it? فقال إن عشت فستراه. He said, if you live long enough, you will see it yourself. قال رأيت في المسجد قوما حلقا جلوسا. I saw in the masjid people sitting in circles. Hilaq is a circle. ينتظرون الصلاة. They're waiting for salah. في كل حلقة رجل. In every circle there's what? One man in charge. وفي أيديهم حصى. And they have in their hands pebbles. فيقول كبروا 100. He will say to them, say Allahu Akbar 100 times. So they start Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. In what? In unison. فَيَقُولُ هَلِّلُوا 100. He will say هَلِّلُوا, meaning say La ilaha illallah, or does it mean Allahu Akbar? Tahleel is Allahu Akbar or La ilaha illallah? What is Allahu Akbar? Can you say takbir in the street nowadays? Be careful. Right? They have associated it with certain things. Be wise when to say takbir. Because sometimes I'm guilty of that. You know, we'll be in somewhere among many people, someone gives the gunus, Allahu Akbar. And then everybody's like, right? They think there's something happened next. La ya akhi, we're just saying Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest, relax. We're nice people, peaceful people. Nobody's going to blow himself up. But because this is how they've printed it. This is how they've printed that image of the Muslims, Allah al-Musta'an. A lot of patching up that we have to do. A lot of patching up that we have to do because of these people. May Allah guide them. فَيَقُولُ سَبِّحُوا 100. Then he will say Subhanallah 100 times. فَيُسَبِّحُونَ 100. قَالَ فَمَاذَا قُلْتُ لَهُم. So Ibn Mas'ud said to Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, so what did he say to them? قَالَ مَا قُلْتُ لَهُمْ شَيْئًا انْتِظَارَ رَأْيِكَ. You know who Abu Musa al-Ash'ari is, but still, seniority. He said, I didn't say anything waiting for your opinion. even though he's a Sahabi and he could do, but as long as he knows there's someone more knowledgeable than him, someone who is wiser, more aware, you will refer the matter to the people that know better. This is why at the time of fitan, we refer the matters to the senior scholars. Not everybody can speak on contemporary issues. Not everybody can assess the situation. Be very careful. قال أفلا أمرتهم أن يعدوا سيئاتهم. He said, should you not, or you could have commanded them to count their evil deeds. وضمنت لهم ألا يفوت من حسناتهم شيء, and you would have guaranteed that none of the good deeds will be wasted. ثم مضى, then he left. ومضينا معه, we left with him. حتى أتى حلقة من تلك الحلق, until he went to one of these circles. فقال ما هذا الذي أراكم تصنعون. What is it that I see you doing? What is it that I see you doing? فقالوا يا أبا عبد الرحمن. They said, oh Abu Abdurrahman, حصن نعد بها التكبير والتهليل والتسبيح. Nothing, just pebbles we're using to count takbir and tahmeed and tahleel and so on and so forth. فقال عدوا سيئاتكم. He said, instead count your evil deeds. فأنا ضامن ألا يضيع من حسناتكم شيء. I guarantee you none of your good deeds will be wasted. ويحكم يا أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ما أسرع هلكتكم. Woe to you, O Ummah of Muhammad, how quickly you destroy yourself. How quickly you destroy yourself. هؤلاء أصحاب محمد بينكم متوافرون. The companions of the Prophet ﷺ are amongst you, available in numbers. وَهَذِهِ ثِيَابُهُ لَمْ تُبْلَى. And his clothes, they did not even go bad yet. They did not, when you leave clothes for a long time, they deteriorate. What is the other word? Mold? Maybe. There's another word they use. Wear out? Yeah, they get worn and torn. صح, المهم. It's still in good condition. وَآنِيَتُهُ لَمْ تَنْكَسِرْ. And the plates, utensils, those kind of things, they still haven't been broken. The Prophet ﷺ had recently passed away. وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ إِنَّكُمْ لَعَلَى مِلَّةٍ هِيَ أَهْدَى مِنْ مِلَّةِ مُحَمَّدٍ أَوْ مُفْتَتِحُوا بَابِ ضَلَالَةٍ. He says, by the one in whose hand is my soul, either you are upon a way other than the way of that is better guided, either you are upon a way that is more guided than the way of the Prophet ﷺ, or you are opening up a door of misguidance. And which one is it? The latter, of course. No one is going to be more guided than the Prophet ﷺ. قالوا والله يا أبا عبد الرحمن ما أردنا إلا الخير. Exactly what every Sufi says today. What every misguided person says today. Said, oh Abu Abdurrahman, wallahi we wanted nothing but good. Wallah, we wanted nothing but good. قال وكم من مريد للخير لن يصيبه. How many a man would want good that he would never acquire, he would never achieve, he would never obtain. إن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حدثنا أن قوما يقرؤون القرآن لا يجاوز تراقيهم. The Prophet ﷺ told us about people that would recite the Quran and it would not pass their collarbones. وأيم الله لا أدري لعل أكثرهم يكون منكم. And by Allah, I don't know, but it looks like many of them will be from among you. ثم تولى عنهم, then he left them. قال عمرو بن سلمة رأيت عامة أولئك الحلق يطاعنوننا يوم النهروان مع الخوارج. I saw that the majority of these people were actually fighting against us with the swords in the fitnah of Nahrawan with the Khawarij. Meaning those people, most of them turn out to be from who? From the Khawarij. Done? MashaAllah, right on point. This 1 minute, ya Shaykh. Remember how the Khawarij were described? تَحْقِرُونَ صَلَاتَكُمْ إِلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ. You will belittle your prayer to theirs. You will belittle your fasting to theirs. They will have cracks on their hands. Their hands will be dry and cracked. From what? From sujood. Long sujood. Making dua maybe for half an hour to Allah. Outwardly, taqi, ويخاف الله, وأولياء, wali min awliya Allah. But internally, the ideology is astray. So ya akhwan, this shows you nothing is more important than the internal understanding of the proper ideology. And then the outwardly will come in its place. It will fall into place like a piece of puzzle. Like a piece of a puzzle that is missing one piece. Do not be fooled by appearances. Do not be fooled by speeches. Do not be fooled by the eloquent articulation of certain speakers who might or will be among those du'at of the gates of Jahannam. And the people who sometimes are praised are from among the Khawarij. And this tells you that even the idea of using the sabha. You know the sabha? What do you guys call it here? Sabha also? Tasbih. How do tasbih is the actual act of mashi. We'll let it slide. Who does this also? Before the Sufis? Christians. I know. My in-laws are Catholic Christians. My mother-in-law does not stop the Hail Marys. Yes? Rosary. There you go. Ahsant. They're called rosary beads. Wallah. The Christians are the original users of these. And some of the big priests, they have one as tall as he is. You know, with, I don't know, 1,000. Sufis obviously love to pick up from the Christians and bring it on board. But that shows you that even Ibn Mas'ud's adherence to the Sunnah and identifying deviance on a very low, small scale. And someone can say, what's the big deal? We're just using pebbles to count. He told them, I guarantee your good deeds. Meaning, don't worry. Allah will not waste your good deeds. Do what the Prophet ﷺ did. Did he not teach us to use our fingers? And he said, these anamil are mustantaqat. These fingers will testify for you on Yawm al-Qiyamah that you remembered Allah with them. Did he not teach you how to remember Allah? Could he have used pebbles? He could have used pebbles. Did he use pebbles? You don't use pebbles. End of discussion. End of discussion. So Ibn Mas'ud identified this small deviation, and look how that deviation grew into a person completely reaching a point where they fought the Sahaba themselves. So bid'ah, as the scholars say in the actual sharh, they always start as something small. يعني شيء مستحسن. عادي, it's a small thing. خلي. And then it grows and it becomes part of the deen, and you reach a point where if you try to remove it, you become the criminal. It has become the sunnah, and the bid'ah becomes the sunnah, and the sunnah becomes a bid'ah. So this marks the completion of the book. I'm not familiar with it. I'm not familiar with it. I'm not familiar with the tasbih being available at the time of Ibn Mas'ud. Yeah, we're familiar with the pebbles became like, they were the thing back then. And maybe they invented that a thread and they added it. I don't know. Wa iyyakum.